Oh, welcome back. It is the Moon Griffon Show, 844-766-6607, Matthew James Tax Pro Hotline. Let's jump gears. An old friend, and talk to him in a while, but he says he got the Louisiana comeback story. Our friend Jonathan Williams with our friends at American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC. Jonathan, been a while. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great, my friend, and good to be back on the show.
Man, you're always welcome. Wish I got you on more than I need to, but Louisiana comeback story. So I tell people all the time, I want to hear it, but more importantly, I really want to start seeing it. But you got a story that you want to talk about. It's Louisiana. It's positive, and that's what I want to hear about.
Well, I think what you all have done over the last year plus in Louisiana has just been, I think, one of the best policy turnaround stories in the country. As we analyze all 50 states, Moon, as you know, we have ALEC legislators from all 50 states, a nonpartisan organization of conservatives. And so when we went in and look at Rich States, Poor States, the book that I co-authored with Art Laffer and Steve Moore, or our Education Freedom Index that we put together every year, or energy index that we put together every year on energy policy. One thing that is really coming crystal clear in our mind is some of the states that are the biggest turnaround stories, and Louisiana is one of those. In fact, when we looked at the new Rich States, Poor States rankings that came out in April for tax day, Louisiana was the biggest improved state, moving up 13 spots. I think it's something that you and I talked about, and that's just incredible after the flat tax of 3% and getting rid of the business franchise tax and just so many of the positive things that you're seeing on a tax reform perspective. That's great. But when you add to that the Gator Scholarship Plan when it comes to education freedom and empowering families and students to make those choices for themselves, and that's something I had a chance to showcase to President Trump in the Oval Office earlier this year when I had a chance to meet with him and several governors, including Governor Landry, for National School Choice Week. And I know he is laser focused on returning education to the states. And what does that mean? It means that states need to lead, and that's exactly what Louisiana is doing with the Gator Plan. And then the other thing I mentioned in our new Louisiana comeback piece that I just wrote was the common sense move to energy independence, or as I heard from Secretary Chris Wright yesterday, Energy Secretary, energy dominance in the United States. There's no reason why we can't be the world's leader in reliable, affordable, and yes, what America produces is a clean energy, Moon, relative to what other countries are producing. Yeah. And so we recognize Louisiana in an effort of Representative Jacob Landry for passing just common sense, good energy policy this year that's based on ALEC model policy, defining things like natural gas and nuclear energy is clean, something that ought to be done a long time ago. And if America is going to lead worldwide when it comes to energy dominance, we absolutely are going to be leaning on Louisiana and Texas and the energy development states to get us there.
Let me ask you a question, and this is not to pop a bubble, okay? But like in the Louisiana Gator Scholarship Program, you do realize it was there, they passed everything, but they didn't fund it properly. And I was very disappointed. The legislature, led by Senator Cameron Half-Ass Henry, they shut that down. They didn't shut the program down, but they didn't put the money in. Instead of helping, I think the number was 47,000 kids, they ended up helping I don't know if it was a few hundred. I don't even know if it's a few thousand. That's why I asked that when you was talking about the story. You're right about all the stuff you're saying. I'm not denying any of it, but what do you do with something like that? Because we didn't fund it. And I was very disheartened by that because it is a great program. Me and you talked about this when you were at the Pelican Institute. Great program, great idea, but we got to fund it. And that's the one thing that we neglected in that policy move that we made. Everything's voted on, everything's done, but it had some money had to come along with it, and that part of it got rejected. And it got rejected by a Republican Senate president.
Well, Moon, I think, this is not a unique situation. Other states are grappling with this very same issue, and that getting the policy right is the essential first step.
Sure.
And the second step is obviously expanding it and including it to be truly universal for any family across the state to take advantage of it, not just stopping at, 40,000, is continuing to go full universal. And that's what states across the country are continuing to expand out theirs as well. And so, there's, I think, a lot of room for improvement in Louisiana and a lot of room room for improvement in other state education freedom plans that have been passed. Now we have 17. I think Louisiana was the 13th. Now we have another 4 or 5 states that have passed it since then.
Yep.
And we just had Secretary Linda McMahon, Education Secretary, with us at the ALEC annual meeting this summer, and she directly had this message for legislators across the country: is the president's goal for education, of course, is to shut down that big bureaucracy here in Washington and allow states and parents to have more control. And what that's going to mean is states absolutely need to lead. And the other thing that didn't really get noticed a ton in the big, beautiful bill that was such a great win on federal Trump tax cuts, and thank goodness for Speaker Johnson and Leader Scalise for helping us get that across the finish line to the president's desk. Incredible work. But one of the little-known facets of that was the ability of more education freedom when it comes to the expansion of these 529 education savings accounts as well. So there's other things that states can do in addition to expanding, let's say, the Gator plan, which absolutely should be expanded to become universal, but taking advantage of some of those new federal changes under the one big beautiful bill of the president's and taking those and expanding them back in Louisiana as well.
Yeah, we had the secretary on with us when she was through. She actually came to Louisiana, worked with Dr. Cade Brumley, who's really dynamite, and they were here promoting what we were trying to do. No, I just wanted to tell you actually about the funding, because I think this thing was supposed to start with almost 50,000 kids, and it's selling down with 8,000 or 9,000 or whatever the number was. And I just think the funding has to go along with the policy. And when they do that, then we got a real chance to win. But I'm glad you said that about, matter of fact, it was 40,000 applications here, only 5,000 were able to get. I wanted you to know this just for facts, because, in Louisiana, we gotta really push people to get it right. And I think your story's great, though, because what you did was you put a positive story on the state of Louisiana, and I'm thankful that you did that, because we don't have a lot of those stories, and when we get one that's national like that, that's a pretty good deal.
Well, and you all have lived it. I've been down many times and have talked to folks on the ground. You lost 250,000 people on that over the last decade, right? And there's got to be some of these tangible policy turnaround stories, whether it's some of the tort reforms or the things that we've been talking about, to get insurance costs down, get tax costs down, make Louisiana more affordable and more business friendly for employers to come in. And I think one thing, as a Michigan native, Moon, we had this very same issue of we had to shed the perception of Michigan and the Midwest becoming the Rust Belt region. We had to get rid of that old perception as we changed the policy, and then update people's thinking to say, based on all these great positive changes that have happened in Michigan and now in Louisiana and other states that have made a great turnaround because of these heavy lifting policy reforms that we are talking about in this piece. I think one of the ways that ALEC and our great network across the country can help raise people's awareness is, yes, Louisiana may have been there and stuck there for a long period of time of a state that had lagged the nation in economic growth. We're 50th out of 50 in our economic performance ranking when you look backwards over the last 10 years, as we've talked about. But it's really important to say that's a point in time, and based on a lot of these great policy innovations that are passing in the last year, that thing is going to be a thing of the past, especially when you continue to keep improving.
By the way, when you pass something like that, I'm just kind of curious, because I know you do a good job of going from state to state and looking at this. Do you think the people here will start feeling some of this stuff in the very near future, that they can see it and feel it? Because I always felt like if you can do that, that's big. That's a good thing.
Well, that's right. I mean, it's got to be more than the policy and the academics of it. It's got to be the lived experience. But I think, you're already starting to see it. I've seen some of it in the news myself, just here in Washington, seeing some of the announcements and the business development that is now being undertaken. And, the only trick is here, Moon, is the Southeast, the SEC conference, if you will, is a heck of a powerhouse, not just in college football, but in economics and good policy. And so you absolutely can fall behind again if you rest on your laurels and stand still. So that's why this idea of continuous improvement, whether it's the Gator plan, whether it's continual tax reform, that's going to be essential to make sure that this isn't a blip on the radar, and this is going to be continuous improvement.
I got to ask you one question before you get out of here. Are you excited that Kelsey and Taylor Swift are engaged? I just was kind of curious to get your thoughts on that.
Hey, Moon, I was waiting with bated breath. You know me, all of us tax economists. That's our thing. We were just waiting for that news.
I told people, if you like pro football, you're going to hate it now, because now it's going to be the engaged person, because they do all that for money and they show at the football games. It'd have been better off if they were breaking up and then they got engaged and married after the season. That we wouldn't have to watch it on TV, because every time Kansas City plays, that's what they're going to show. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go there with you, but I just thought I would. What the hell? All righty, Jonathan, how can people, real quick, get you out of here? Give me a website. People can go check it out.
ALEC.org, ALEC.org, and you can also go to richstatespoorstates.org and check out all those rankings we were just talking about.
All right. Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure. Good talking to you, brother.
Take care, friend.